brought to you in part by Stardust. Download the app and start sharing your reactions to movies, trailers, and TV shows today. Follow Jaby Koay first and tag us in your first video. Hello people, I am Jaby Koay, joined by Cortney, right?
Hello.
We're going to talk about MUNNA BHAI MBBS. I feel it's important to state one thing before we get into this. We are both American, we're both raised in the States, so our perspective is that of American audience. Is that good Englishes? Just want to talk a little bit about Stardust, an app you can download for your phone. It allows you to record reactions between 3 and 30 seconds long for trailers, movies, TV shows. You can power through other people's reviews like Snapchat or Instagram stories. So here are some reviews that you guys turned in for MUNNA BHAI MBBS.
Very good mix of comedy and drama. Is a light-hearted movie that also sends across a message.
MUNNA BHAI MBBS is one of my favorite films of all times. I may have watched it more than 150 times.
Rajkumar Hirani's first film as a director. He studied editing and worked as an editor in Bollywood for quite some time, and then finally got his first big break under Vidhu Vinod Chopra films.
One of the best movies I've watched. I've cried, I've laughed, loved the story, loved the acting, loved the direction and the dialogues.
Lot of things to be learned from this movie. 4 out of 5 stars. It's a good movie to watch.
The same director as PK and 3 Idiots, so you know it's gonna be a really good one.
It is a laughter riot. It's a fun movie to watch. I give it 7 out of 10.
It's a very interesting movie that has a good message to share. It always keeps you engaged with, trying to know what happens next.
MUNNA BHAI MBBS is one of the best comedy movies of Bollywood. Just thinking of it brings back so many memories.
It's a cult Indian film which gives you a feeling that doctors are those people who make people happy because of their treatment. It's a fantastic movie.
I loved it. I thought it was incredible.
Hopefully that inspired you to get on board with Stardust just like Cortney, right? Please download the app using the link in the description below. Make sure to tag both myself and Achara on Twitter when you upload your first review. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys' reviews for the next video we do, and hopefully we can include it in our next review. Full disclosure, this movie's been out for 14 years, so this is gonna be a spoiler review. If you guys haven't seen it yet, I don't know what you're doing. Let's dive into this. This comes from IMDb, the one-liner, a gangster sets out to fulfill his father's dream of becoming a doctor. I know you probably don't know this, but I've watched several of this director's films, Rajkumar Hirani, well, not several, but a few. 3 Idiots, PK, and then now this. I was a huge fan of PK and 3 Idiots. I thought those were both very awesome films. In fact, they are like 2 of my favorite Indian films. I was really looking forward to this because of that. I'm gonna say at the outset that, for me, this didn't surpass those films, but I still liked it. This is your 3rd Indian film after Rang De Basanti and Queen. How did you feel about this?
I loved it. It had a lot of heart. It reminded me to the American film Patch Adams. I loved MUNNA BHAI a lot more. I was really invested in this character because he was a different kind of character. Because he was this gangster, he had a different perspective on life and living. He found a way to reinvigorate everyone he met.
Yeah.
The concept of just doing it with a hug and just conversation and the way you connect to people, that was really powerful. And it also healed him in a way, because that's ultimately, when you set out to help someone else, you end up helping yourself. I definitely loved everything about, this character's story and his journey.
How did you feel about the message about society that it was saying regarding doctors, regarding how we treat certain people? Like the fact that he's a gangster and has something to offer people is monumental in my opinion.
It speaks to the way people are judged based on their profession or the things that people know about them.
Exactly.
When really you don't know anyone. You can't judge a book by its cover. It doesn't mean he doesn't have something to offer.
Yeah.
The dean gave his speech to the incoming class and he was like, it's not about helping people.
Or is that about you don't love them?
You don't love them.
Yeah, you don't love them.
You don't care about them. You just do your job, save their life, and then move them on.
Yeah.
There are some people that have cancer and or other illnesses that beat them because of willpower, because of their connection to the people that they know.
Right.
So this to me was such a powerful and interesting way to
convey
show
that message. Yeah.
Exactly.
I think we're both in agreement that it was a very good story. It is interesting how much of an impact love and positivity will have on helping you to heal, because negativity and depression will make you more sick. It can actually, mess up your health.
What was the key phrase he kept saying?
Dump the tension.
Dump the tension. Dump the tension.
Yeah.
So initially when he was saying that, I was like, why does he keep saying that? As the story continued to
Chill
go
out,
on,
dude. Chill out,
it
dude.
was it had a different connotation, because it wasn't just him saying chill out. It was him saying literally, release everything you're carrying.
Right. What I really appreciated too was that he really does go through a whole arc over the course of the story because he's a different person at the end of the film, and it ends in a way that I actually didn't expect. I didn't actually expect him to come clean and be like, look, I cheated. This is the truth of what happened.
Yeah, me too.
And what pushed him over the edge actually felt very realistic. Like he's sitting there going over, it almost reminded me of a better version of the end of Flight. Did you see Flight with Denzel Washington?
Yeah, I did.
I did not like that film. I don't know how you felt about it. It was a similar ending where he's sitting there on this panel, these panel of people are looking at him, and he's got this opportunity to lie his way forward, and he's like, you know what, screw it, I don't want to do this anymore. This is what's happening, and you guys are all messed up just as much as I am. You don't have any compassion for your patients, and you need that. And his one request was not about himself, but about the mom.
The mother, like, don't bury her in form.
Exactly. I just thought that was so cool because it really showed how much like concern he had. And from the very beginning of the film, like even though he's this guy who's kind of doing these shady things to get by, you get this established thing right away that
who he is.
He has morals.
Yes.
He does have morals. He's like, don't lie, even though he's lying to his dad.
But he lives by a code.
Yeah, it's honor.
You know, it's honor bound. Yeah, he did lie to his dad, but he lied to his dad to fulfill his dad's dream. He thought that's what his father wanted. And I think that is a huge factor in a lot of the films that I'm seeing because there is this devotion to family, which is so powerful. Chinky, like she, throughout the whole film, I kept waiting for her. I was like, when are you gonna stand up for him? Yeah. And it was still like her obligation to her dad. Like she still respected and honored him as a valued, you know, like member of the society and a doctor who had done a lot for their community, I'm sure.
Right.
It wasn't until the very end when she finally was able to stand up and show him from a place of still respectful place of like just showing him and recapping all the things that he hadn't really thought about. You got what you wanted. Is it right?
Right.
How do you feel now?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, when you're looking at this powerful example of a man who has not spoken in 12 years.
Right.
And here he is. Not only is he speaking, he's moving, attempting to move.
Right.
Like
that's powerful. The funniest thing is they set it up, and I completely forgot about that guy. I completely forgot that might come.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And when he started moving, like, oh yeah, duh, like that has to happen because they've been setting it up this whole time.
Yeah.
It was a great moment that I got fooled, and I always appreciate when a movie fools me because usually I can see things coming, and I for some reason didn't catch that one, which that made me feel good. There's also a huge moral aspect to the story that I really appreciate, which is like you have to give. If you just give and give and give of yourself, you will get back. It's this kind of weird karma thing that's introduced in the film because everybody went to bat for him. This guy who's a street thug, basically, and I mean, he was a Don, but still, like, he wasn't a respected person, and here he comes into this hospital that's very prestigious, and everyone's batting for him because he was there for everybody.
Because passion is contagious.
Yeah.
Because when someone is living their truth and they're passionate about what they actually believe in, that lifts people up in a way and it makes them think.
Yeah.
And every single one of them, every single one of his questions weren't coming from a self-gratifying place. They were coming from an actual desire to know, why aren't you doing this? Why are you burying this woman whose son is dying in front of you? Why are you burying her in paperwork? You won't treat him?
Right. Story-wise, I don't think there was anything wasted in this film. I think everything they set up actually had a payoff. Now, there's this thing called item numbers. I don't know if you're aware of this, where they have this kind of provocative dance with a female in the middle of a movie. This is just a thing that happens in Indian films, right?
Yeah.
Where they'll just... it wasn't with Chinky, it was this other woman that he brought in.
Yes, Reena.
Right, and even that wasn't wasted. Like, that actually had a contributing factor to the story. It was used as a method to make that character feel better.
That scene was so wonderful because even the nurses weren't turned off. Like, they all were, like, encouraging him and so, like, happy for him. Like, look at him, you know?
So I did a little bit of reading about the cast. The main actor, Sanjay Dutt, or Dutt, I don't know how to say his name properly, and his father, his real father, played his father on screen, Sunil Dutt.
Oh, wow!
And he hadn't done a performance in 16 years on camera.
Wow!
And this, I believe, if I read correctly, was his final performance. He died 2 years after this film came out.
Oh no! What an amazing tribute to your father.
Now get this. Sanjay Dutt was kind of a real-life gangster himself.
Yeah.
He went to jail because he had possession of a lot of AK-47s. So he went to prison for a while, and he had to like reform his own life, and then he went into film. And so what you see on screen, I think, is really inspired by some off-screen stuff that happened between him and his dad. And like his dad's character in this movie actually is very representative of his dad's of his dad in real life, because he was very active in society with helping.
Community
what do you call it? Yeah, he's a community leader. He's like a philanthropist
Yeah.
in real life. He was a very honorable character in real life, and you see that come through in the screen. And so when they're talking about the things that are disappointing them and the things that make them happy at the bookends of the film, I feel like that's all speaking to something that's happened in real life between the two of them.
Not gonna lie, totally cried.
Yeah.
Like that to me.
But it's just
that's what like father and son moments always get me.
I feel like it's because there's real life information that is feeding that moment, those acting moments. It's like that's all informed by something that they actually went through.
That's a really interesting backstory. I love to hear about things like that.
There's one thing, I tried watching the behind the scenes on the DVD, and most of it I couldn't get because it's all in Hindi and there was no English subtitles, but there's some of it that's in English. And one of the things was Rajkumar Hirani was talking about working with Sanjay Dutt. He was a little bit concerned. He was like, he wasn't sure if Sanjay was hearing everything he was saying. And after about 3 days, he realized Sanjay picked up everything. He paid attention to everything happening. He just may not look like it, but he was paying attention. I feel like so much of what was happening off camera was informing what was happening on camera. Because it's the same thing in the movie where it's like he was actually picking up on everything. You may not think he was, but he totally was.
So maybe it was a total character choice.
Maybe.
Like, you know what I mean? Like maybe he's method, because there are a lot of actors that are trying to embody what they're trying to live.
I have no idea, but he really owned that persona, and I was like, he's doing this really, really well. And then to find out like his backstory, I'm like, okay, this makes way more sense now because it feels so real. Just him being that dude, I'm like, I can see this guy actually doing this in real life, like being that dude.
Absolutely. He did it so well.
I've seen 2 of this guy's films, and I'm a fan of his style and his work. The one thing that I am not a huge fan of that he's done twice now from what I've seen, the way he uses Boman Irani.
That was her dad, right?
Yeah. The way he uses Boman Irani, I'm not in full agreement with. Let me explain why. And it's because I'm coming from an American standpoint. Certain things come off as like too on the nose or too cheesy for me. When he's like inducing a laugh to get through those hard moments, it's like that was cool like a couple of times, but he kept happening throughout the film, and it maybe didn't wear on you, but it wore on me after a while.
He was trying to live his mantra. That's why it didn't weigh on me, because it started to wane.
Yeah.
And that's what I needed to see.
Right. It did. He did lose it.
He started to lose it because his mantra started to fall apart.
Sure.
And that to me was his arc.
Yeah. I understand what they're going for. What he did in I believe 3 Idiots was he spoke with this heavy lisp. It just bugged me so much for some reason because it felt like a very forced lisp. But then people were telling me in the comments like, no, he's actually a really good actor. And seeing his performance here, I'm like, I believe you. I believe he's a good actor. When it comes to those emotional moments, the subtle moments, like at the end when his daughter is having that speech, I'm like, wow, the way he's looking at his daughter, just looking at her, you see everything. He's not saying shit, but you see what he's thinking. And so I believe he's a good actor.
And then when he kneels down and he really, you can see the inner moment where he actually takes in everything that she said, everything that he's seen and witnessed, as well as the man staring in front of him. I also think that it's key to know that maybe that was his acting choice and he brought it to the director.
I think it's a culmination of the two. It's a confluence because like obviously he's gonna have his choice and the director's gonna have his say. It's just this weird thing I wasn't sure how to feel about. I get the point of it. I am just not sold on it completely. I understand why it's there. It just didn't like have the effect I wanted it to have on me. But overall, like, I like his style. I like, for me, the director it's less about what he's doing with the frame and more about what he's doing with the characters.
You're letting the characters tell your story through the camera, which I think that is every bit as necessary as having a grand sweeping shot of the scenery back behind you. You're giving us the opportunity to kind of live along with these people.
Right.
And I thought that was a huge draw in order to like his style. Like I really enjoyed that.
Well, he certainly got good performances out of his actors. There were some moments for me that were a little bit too melodramatic. That's part of the style of it. And so I mean,
like him throwing himself into the glass and the door so he could stay in the hospital, like throwing himself off the balcony.
Oh no, that didn't bother me. It was more when people were getting really upset about things and crying. I'm just like, okay, well, that's just the style. I accept it. Even for the end, even though it moved me, I would have dialed back the speech a little bit with the actress when she's talking to her dad over the microphone and telling him like, congratulations, Dad. Like, I understand. That was a powerful moment. It was poignant, and I know it moved you. I just would have dialed her back just a little bit. There were certain moments that were just kind of like a little bit too hammed on for me, but that's me as an American talking.
I thought of it as a pressure cooker because this is a woman who, for the 2 hours of the film, she had been kind of just like her dad, like suppressing everything that she was thinking and feeling and trying to go along with what she had been raised and what she had known and what she had lived thus far.
I agree with the emotional aspect of it. It's just the execution of it, I'm just not sure how much of it completely settled with me without it appearing melodramatic. Like, a better example is probably later after that scene when she has her back to Sanjay Dutt and she's still pretending to be
letting him think that it was the other woman.
Right, exactly. Because she's like, you know, why aren't you gonna marry me? You know, and he's like, I can't, Chinky. I'm in love with Dr. Suman.
I know, but she wasn't even disguising her voice. So that was like, at that point, I kind of wanted him to be a little like
suspicious.
Questioning, you know.
But it was fine because he's an emotional state. Yeah, like he was dealing with shit.
Yeah.
The thing is, when she turned around and she's like, well, marry me then. And it's like, I get the emotional beats. It's just the way that was handled was a little bit hammed on. That's all I'm saying. For me. Yeah, like,
no,
you know,
I respect that. I respect that. Just like initially, like when I brought up like him on the balcony and like all the things that he did or say in the hospital. Initially, my initial instincts were like, is that a little too much? But as it went on, like it shows the dedication to the character, the character's compassion towards the patients that he has, you know, developed a relationship with, and also his desire to fulfill his dream of becoming a doctor for his dad.
The thing I want to make sure people understand, so they don't think I'm hating on this, the emotional aspect isn't lost on me. There's just little choices here and there where I'm like, I would have dialed that back a little bit. I would have dialed it back a little bit. I wouldn't have hammed it on as hard. That's the difference in cultural cinema between Indian cinema and American cinema, I think.
As people who are director, like you're a director,
yeah.
I aspire to be a director. I think you always have to be thinking. You have to always be wondering, like, how would I shoot that? How would I have done it? You have appreciation.
Sure.
And then you also have the opportunity for you to think, okay, how could I have done that different? So I think that yes, in American cinema, I think that maybe that element of like looking at it with that kind of eye and thinking in that way, not in a critical way, but in a exploratory way.
Right.
Like I think that is something that we as Americans do and tend to mention.
Right.
But it's not in any way a detraction about what was done and what we saw. Like we love the film. Every aspiring filmmaker should question.
A great example of the thing I liked is what I said earlier, where Boman Irani is just looking at his daughter, and you can see everything going on. I love moments like that where it's not being so verbose. It's communicating through some kind of visual language, and I think that's awesome. Like I said, I liked what Boman Irani was doing when it came to the emotional stuff. The laughing stuff was cool initially, and then afterwards it kind of wore out. But like you were saying, it was justified because eventually he just kind of abandons it because it's not working. He's just overwhelmed with all the things he's dealing with in the politics of the school and everything like that. But I think that everybody in the film did a great job. Like even the dude who was in the wheelchair did a fantastic job.
He was wonderful.
I was like, wow,
he
like
was one of my favorites. Yeah. Like he did beautiful work. Talk about how an actor can crush a role by just literally living and being there, being present.
Yeah, when he came to life, I was like, whoa, this dude looks like he legitimately looks like someone who just came to life.
Yeah.
I genuinely wonder if he was on set just like this for like 3-4 weeks, staying in character just for that moment. Arshad Warsi, who played Circuit, was awesome.
His best friend?
Yeah, he played the lieutenant,
basically. Oh, wow. Yeah, he was great.
Yeah.
He was great.
Gracie Singh played Dr. Suman Asthana Chinky.
Yeah.
How'd you feel about her?
She was lovely.
Yeah.
I thought she was very charming.
She had a very, her name's Gracie, and she had a very graceful presence on screen. And I'm not joking, I'm, serious.
No, she was. I thought she was really, really cute.
The woman who played his mom, Rohini Gadi, her name's Parvati Sharma in the movie. I really liked her because it was this very small role, very simple, but what she did, what she brought, felt very real. I believed her as his mom. It didn't feel like a performance, it didn't feel like an actor that was brought in. She actually genuinely looked like someone who could be his mom.
Yeah.
And she did it very well. That moment when he's like, can I have a magic hug? And she just looks at him.
Oh,
and then
it was heartbreaking. You'd see she wanted to, but she couldn't.
Exactly. You could see where she was torn.
It's like the mother's love.
But not much was done there. It was just a little look in her eyes, and you could just tell what was going on in her mind without her doing a whole lot. And that's my favorite kind of performance. I mean, overall, I think the cast here was great. The actors all did a great job. I want to defer to you on this because you've got way more experience with music and choreography than I do. How'd you feel about it in general?
I loved it. I thought it was really complimentary. I love when music doesn't overpower a film. It becomes almost a character. And that's how I felt about the music as well as the choreography, because it wasn't overly pronounced and it wasn't that they just stopped everything. It had its own life and it was telling a story. When the young man was talking about when he found out and realized that it was a heartbreak, that a girl broke up with him, that was my favorite dance number. Because it's literally showing him that life must go on. It sparked something in him and he was wondering well, what did you do? What did she say? All of the music and the dancing and the choreography, it really just helped move the story along. And that's what it should do.
How'd you feel about the Michael Jackson moment when he pushed the MJ imitator out of the way? There was a guy doing the moonwalk and he's like, no, we're not doing that. We're gonna do my dance. There was a moment where he's like, that's too fancy for me. I'm gonna stick to my
You're doing too much.
For me, the music came at the service of the story more often than it didn't, but there were moments where I felt like I didn't need it so much and I was like, I could do without this in the film. But for the most part, I felt like it was at the service of the film and that's important to me. I don't like when songs are just kind of dumped in there for the sake of being there, for the sake of the soundtrack, as opposed to actually being at the service of the story.
The one that I agree with you on that, for me, the Chinky scene, I would have loved to see a little bit more story within her song.
Near the end of the movie.
Near the end of the movie.
Yeah.
It was almost like a revelation, which I totally got that aspect of it.
Right.
I just would have liked to have seen within her dance, within that sequence, within just that one sequence, because within every other dance number, and still it was telling a story and it was embedded within. And this one seemed like it could have almost been pulled out. That was the only thing. I thought it was beautiful. I thought her singing was wonderful.
Anytime there was singing, it was obviously well executed singing. For me, it's just a matter of relevance. Does this need to be here? Because if it doesn't, then I don't particularly care for it to be in the movie because it's asking for your time as an audience. I'm sure that for me, obviously, I'm coming from a different perspective, so I can't appreciate it quite as much as the Indian audience can. But for the most part, like I said, I think that the songs that were present actually helped to facilitate character nature, character stuff. Like you said, that song where he's going through that whole thing of when he fell in love with this girl and she didn't want him.
And then she didn't want, and then he was like, well, what did you do? Well, then came Pamela.
Yeah, exactly. I thought that was actually great because it really shows you the cycle of life. You go through this and then you move on. I think that concludes the discussion for this movie, you guys. Thank you so much for recommending this film. I really enjoyed it.
So did I.
Yeah.
I loved it.
And so I'm looking forward to the next Indian film. I don't know what that is yet. I will let you guys know which one it is very, very soon so that you can turn in your Stardust reviews and we can include that in the video just like we did with this one. So please sign up for Stardust using the link in the description below. Make sure to tag both Achara and myself on Twitter. Courtney's using Stardust too. She likes it a lot.
I do.
So, you guys, thanks so much for hanging out. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Check out Courtney Wright on the social media. Check out our other reactions, reviews, and short films. I'm Jaby Koay. This is
Courtney Wright.
Peace out.